Hey, I'm all right, man. Man, it's been difficult to try and make this happen.
Yeah.
But
I could hear the panic in your text. I was like,
right.
he was like,
So I have go ahead.
it was almost like saying, Mr. Fireman, come quick, come quick.
Right? Right. What happened is I had a menu that was over the next button and I couldn't make the menu disappear to get to the next button.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, so I wasn't even the live stream platform, it was my phone. And
Oh Lord.
it threw a menu up and I couldn't get rid of the menu. But either way, I didn't have a chance to introduce you. This has just popped up. So the people out in YouTube land are probably wondering what in the heck is this? But to everybody out there, this is interviews with impactful people. And I am Mark Cash, your host. And this is my good friend Yamil. Right, Tealer out of Dallas, Texas. And I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. I've had enough issues tonight. I don't want to mess it up.
Well, there's no messing anything up, Mark. But my name's Jamil Tealer, and I'm a health and life insurance broker out of Valley View, Texas, which is just north of Dallas. And I just love what you're up to, Mark, because everything, all the content you've been putting out, everything that you've been doing has been really about uplifting people and helping them to, just be realistic about where they are, but also where they want to go, and letting them know that nothing's impossible.
Well,
And
man, I appreciate that.
yeah, it's been something ever since I met you. It's been something that's been very inspirational, and so even your book, just what to do when you're broken. You're just like, look, there's always opportunity there, dude.
Right.
I bought that book and it helped me.
Yeah, you did. I didn't know that. Um, man, that's full of hustles and, and
Hey,
tips and tricks.
hustling's hustling, man. You know,
Right.
you're a dad, you got kids to feed.
Right. Well, man, that's all. Man, I wrote that book just from experience.
Yeah, but that's what it's been. That's what it's about, man. It's just like, hey, when you got to hustle, you got to hustle. So like
And
it's funny. Like the most comedic characters in TV for a long time have been like side characters of sitcoms. Folks like Hustleman and all the folks that have all these angles, but those are the survivors.
right,
Those are
right.
the survivors. So
Absolutely. The street will definitely teach you how to make money and survive and get by. It's up to you how you choose to apply that.
absolutely. Well, somebody that's really popular right now, Ali Sadiq, and he's a comedian, and like he talks about going to jail because he was a street pharmaceutical rep.
Uh huh.
He's like,
Street pharmaceutical rep. Right. Well, we need them too. Right. There's opportunity for everybody. But you
absolutely.
know what I've also learned though?
What?
I've learned a whole lot just through being in business. You
Absolutely.
know, and being in business and dealing with the different challenges of owning your own business, trying to come up with payroll, trying to come up with, even if you don't have payroll, if it's just you and you're a solopreneur, um, and you don't have a guaranteed paycheck every Friday, you got to go out there and get that. And when the climate changes or the environment changes or the competitive environment changes, you have to figure out how to roll with that. You know what I mean? And when you hit a plateau in business and you need to go higher and you have to sit and figure out, how do I grow this business? How do I take this to the next level? And and you begin to learn to offer more services. You begin to learn to network. You begin to learn to package services. You may uh, you may drop some services and then pick up others. Or you may create a different branch of what you're doing, a different division. Um, One of the things my uncle always told me, he said, when you get slow and you're in a rut and you can't really break through to the next level, he said, hire somebody.
Absolutely.
Just hire somebody. Bring somebody on with a
Mhm.
different perspective, with different experience than what you have. And just real quick, I don't want to get way off on a tangent, but I was in a position like that one time with my first business, metal recycling and salvage. And I was in this rut and I couldn't grow. I had kind of reached my ceiling, and obviously it wasn't high enough. I needed to go much higher. And I hired this guy, and he had the idea to start looking online for airplane graveyards. And I'd have never even thought of that. And he found this blog article by this photojournalist who trespassed on some private property up in North Florida because there was an airplane graveyard there. There was about 9 planes there, and he details how he stopped at a CVS or something, and he called somebody or whatever. He talked about all these details, and the guy was able to read the blog and then go on Google Earth and kind of figure out where it was he was talking about. And he found this airplane graveyard and he gave me the address. And I looked up the address, tried to see who owned it, and it was a corporation in Maryland. But because I had recently become licensed in a corporate structure myself, I understood you had to have that all businesses had to have a registered agent, right? Which I wouldn't have known if I hadn't created my own business,
Right?
right? So I contacted uh, the equivalent of sunbiz.org here in Florida, up in Maryland, Secretary of State, whatever. And I ended up getting the corporate papers. I found the registered agent. I got a hold of them, and that was the biggest job I had ever did in my entire life. And it all came because I hired somebody who brought a different perspective and brought an idea to the table that I would have never thought of on my own. So not to hijack here the interview, but that's just an example of something I was talking about hire somebody.
And it's not just hire somebody, but it's also utilize while you're in that process, utilizing discernment. Because just like the right person being hired into your business can literally take you to the next level, the wrong person being put into your business can torpedo it. And
Absolutely.
the next thing you know, you're like, "Where's all this standing water coming from?" And you're literally sitting there like, "Okay, well, what do we do?" And so, utilizing discernment in that instance is a
And that's
huge
experience talking there.
that's a huge thing. And so if there are new business owners, folks that are like brand new to business, and they may not have that discernment, but your gut knows. Your gut knows.
Right.
So if you're talking with somebody and your gut has that feeling of, hey, you know, there's something off here,
Yeah,
okay,
trust it.
trust it, because next thing you might be 2 seasons in where everything looks great, and then all of a sudden you're like, what happened? And that's when you have to, like, literally forensically go back and check that person's work. So there can be a lot that can be done, and here's the cool part is that where we are in the world right now, there's so much opportunity
Right.
that just needs to be sought after. And so, um, you're absolutely right. Hiring people, doing just just getting outside of your comfort zone and stop and ceasing the activities that are putting you where you are is a big deal.
Yeah.
And in my business, activity actually creates revenue. And so, if and literally in this business, it's about, one of the things that I talk about a lot with brand new agents is that um, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So if you keep saying the same thing on the phone, keep saying the same thing to each client, keep saying the same thing, and you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to be introspective and say, okay, so what is it that I'm doing that is causing me to get these results? And so, one thing that I've learned about business overall is that a business is literally a humongous mirror, and it's multiple mirrors that will all be reflecting different aspects of yourself back to you. And so when you're in business, it really is one of those things where you have to understand that if you're not getting the success that you want, you are the common denominator of anything that's
Of all
happening
of it.
in business. And so the journey of being successful in business is really the journey of uh, learning about yourself, learning about your shortcomings, learning about your strengths, and how to be successful with the set of skills that you have, and to build the skills that you really want to build on. And if you reach a ceiling or a plateau in a certain skill set, that's when you hire somebody. That's when you move into that next level of, okay, well, I don't have this skill set in there. And I mean, right now in technology with our generation, the next generation is just far beyond where we are with technological ability. It's amazing what some of these subcontractors on Fiverr and different platforms are able to do in the a quarter of the time than what we're able to do.
Right.
And
Right.
so, I remember a pastor of mine. Uh, he always talked about, he said, well, everybody talks about, building your strengths and or building your weaknesses and capitalizing on your strengths. But he says, look, man, I'll tell you, as much as I like doing certain things, there are other things that I'm just not interested in doing, and so those are the areas that I staff your weaknesses, build your strengths.
And I like that. I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Well,
Um,
other people are gifted in those areas.
so let me ask you this.
Okay.
Uh, this little seems like it'll come out of left field, but it's really right on it's really right on point with what you're saying. Um, I'm sure you're probably pretty good with running your business and getting business and all those things. But what about your books? Do you keep your books or you pay somebody to do that?
Yes and no. I pay somebody. I keep my books, but then I also pay somebody to forensically fix them. So it's one of those things where I'm in a stage of business where my cash flow it's doing what it's supposed to do, but we're in that in between where it's not exactly where I'd like it to be. So what I do is I manage my books up to a point, and then when we have to get everything in compliance a couple times a year, I have my person go deal with the rest of that.
I've owned, I don't know how many businesses at this point. Uh, um, I don't know, four, five, six of them anyway. And books have always been a weakness for me. And I'm normally the one who's spearheading the business and running the business and operating the business and getting the business. And then having to come back and run all that data and keep track and organize. That's not where my strength's at.
That's not.
And I've noticed with business after business after business after business, that is my weakness. And now I got a guy who keeps my books for me, and I don't even worry about it no more. And before, I used to think I couldn't afford a bookkeeper. You know, sometimes times when it's just you and you're a solopreneur, dollars be tight, right? But now it's got to the point where I realize, man, I can't afford not to have a bookkeeper.
And
Right?
we're getting to
Because
that.
it's either a little bit every month or it's a whole lot at the end of the year, or sometimes at the end of 3 years and you're trying to catch everything up.
So
You know?
what I found is that there are certain platforms out there that will integrate with your accounts
Mhm.
and start to keep track of all that for you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
use QuickBooks.
and so that just having somebody that can get all that set up for you, especially if you're in business at the beginning where you're like, hey, I know I can't afford to pay somebody every month to do all this. So having that, even just that basic setup, is it will pay huge dividends for brand new
Yeah.
business
Yeah, it's real helpful.
for sure.
It's real helpful.
There's a lot,
So,
and so even on that point, um, depending on the entrepreneur's learning style or the way that their brain operates, there are multiple different platforms that are designed to work with the way that certain entrepreneurs' brains work. And so, if you're an ADHD entrepreneur, there are tools like that are built for
okay.
if
I didn't know that.
yeah, if you're more that super logical linear style, wanting everything cut and dried, and you need to be able to technically see the code for every transaction. There are platforms like that. You just have to look for them. So
Okay.
that's a little tidbit that I wanted to throw out there for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I was reading
Okay,
here in your information that you had sent me over. It says, I guess you've been doing this now for 6 years, huh?
I
The
have.
health insurance, life insurance thing. It's probably been about that since I seen you. So I guess you were just starting back then, back when we were knowing each other and in networking together.
Correct.
Um, how has your business grown over the last 5 years, and what steps have you taken in order to see the growth in it?
So my business has changed in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Business started when you first met me. I was working with U.S. Health, and man, I was doing a lot of work. I was doing a lot of work. I was hustling, brand new to the business. So literally, I'm like, hey, I can serve everybody. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna make sure that everybody is that as many people as I can possibly cover. I'll cover, and this and that and the other thing. And so what I found is that I love this industry, but that was just not the right fit of a company for me. And
Okay.
so when I left that company, I became an independent broker. Now, I'll tell you I'll tell you kind of the circumstances surrounding me going out to become an independent broker. Is there was a point in time because the company was providing leads for me. I was making over 700 phone calls a day,
My God.
like literally hustling. My wife was pregnant, and when I left, my daughter was 1 month old, and man, I was hustling. And I finally got a client through underwriting and or into underwriting, and she got declined. And literally months of work just gone. I knew I wasn't going to get paid from that. And so At that point, when I got that email saying that client had gotten declined, I was sitting at my desk holding my 1 month old baby girl. I had $25 in my bank account, and I knew I wasn't getting paid. And so I actually reached out to a friend of mine, and she actually put me in contact with an independent broker friend of hers, and we had a great conversation. And this is where the Lord really came in, because I'm like, what do I do? I can't keep doing this. I can't make 700 phone calls a day because I'm literally leashed to my desk. And if I'm not getting any business from this, then what do I do? And so what I did was I went and had lunch with. I couldn't afford lunch, but this broker bought me lunch, and he said, I explained to him my whole situation. And he said, "Wow, man, you've got the work ethic. You've really been working at it, but for what it sounds like to me is you just don't have the right products in your portfolio for you to be successful." And I said, "Okay, I would I would like to keep doing this, and I really like this business. How can I do what I need to do?" And he says, "Well, you need to get an errors and omissions insurance policy, and you'll have to leave where you are." And I said, "Okay, I can do that, but I don't have money for an errors and omissions policy." And he said,
Okay, for a what? I didn't hear what kind of policy?
"Error and omissions policy, errors and
Okay,
omissions."
error and omissions. And explain that
That's an insurance policy that insurance agents have to carry in case there are errors or
on
something.
themselves.
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
understood.
so I couldn't afford one. Like, it was going to be 100 and some odd dollars, and I had $25 in my bank account, and I used five of those dollars to get to that lunch meeting to put gas in my car.
Right.
And so,
I've been there.
uh, like I said, I got your book. We worked through some stuff. But here's the thing: is the grace of God just really allowed for, that broker was like, "Man, I'm going to help you." And so he said, "I've got an extra $200 in my marketing budget for this month. Uh, Here it is." And he literally just handed me $200 bills. He says, "Go get your E&O policy. I will help you get set up, and all the rest of it." Well, I took that client that got declined. I wrote her with another company, and that was my first policy as an independent broker.
Well, what a cool story that okay.
So
Okay.
from that moment, I started. That's when you saw me networking, and we got acquainted. I'm literally learning everything that I'm learning on the fly. Like, okay, I've got to market, I've got to come up with a company name, I've got to get a business together, and I'm literally
Yeah, I
having to.
think I helped you at that time.
You did, you did.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, I got to get a website up, and I've got to do all this, that, and the other thing. And man, I scraped, and stuff came together, and resources came out of the woodworks to assist me in that process. And one client
The universe will do that.
after another just kept coming. And it wasn't that big clients came or whatever, but it was one of those things where every I had to just keep, it was one of those things where you put one foot in front of the other, and things start to come together. And so when I found out that I really liked working with groups, I got a referral for a group, and I realized that, and it's not that I didn't like working with individuals. Individuals are great, but I found that really a passion of mine is to help businesses actually help them take care of the folks that are making them money. Because there's a lot of businesses out there, where they're really struggling for
So like
staffing.
employee benefits.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of businesses out there that are struggling for staffing, and they're losing the staffing. They're they're going through
Be-
interviews, they're going through a lot of the hiring processes, and then they will actually proffer an offer, but the offer doesn't get accepted because they don't have benefits, or there's actually a better offer somewhere else that does have health insurance or life insurance or some of those other benefits that come along with the policy, with the employment. And so, I've seen that frustration in those network.
So your services become a benefit to the employer.
Absolutely. Well, and I've heard employers say, "Well, everybody talks about that I get a tax write off if I do this, but what's really the benefit of me putting group benefits together?" And what I'm constantly telling business owners is that it's not about the immediate ROI on what you actually spend in benefits, but the actual cost of replacing someone is 2.5 times their annual salary.
Right.
So, if you've got somebody that, you've had for 3 years, they're trained, they're a leader on your staff, they're doing the work, and they're really invested into your company. What's it going to look like if you provide benefits and a way for them to move up the ladder within the company, and you're able to make sure they're they're with you? And so not only do we talk about just, hey, we're gonna take care of your employees and make sure that they're able to take care of you and your business, but then, okay, so you've identified those employees. You've identified those employees, and so those employees that are the leaders, that are the ones that like become the linchpins of your staff as you're scaling your business. You want to make sure that they stay with you. You,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
because
Retention. You want to keep your people. You
you
want
want to
to
keep those folks,
Yeah,
and
like a football team. They want to draft and then they want to develop their players instead of sending them off to other people. So you want to hire and you want to develop your employees and you want to keep them, and your services provide an incentive for those employees to stay.
absolutely, absolutely. But and this is something that I'm working with business owners on right now, and this is a program that I've started called the Legacy Roadmap.
Okay,
And
yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
and so this is where I've actually taken my journey as a business owner, and I've looked at it saying, okay, here I am as a business owner. What do I need to build a business that not only will take take what it is that I'm trying to do and assist those that I'm trying to assist, but knowing that when you start a business, we all start a business to not only solve a problem, but we also want to be paid for our work. And
Right?
so that's part of owning a business, is that, because you've taken the risk, you've gone out, you've solved the problems, you've done what you needed to do, that you take the profits and, take care of your family, right?
Hmm.
So Legacy Roadmap is about helping these business owners, no matter where they are in business, because somebody that's just starting out, somebody that's been in business for a few years, somebody that's on that track of, hey, we've been in business for 10, 15 years. It's time to start, making some plans to transition, because I've got to start. I've 65, 70 is coming up, and I don't want to be, making coffee or doing whatever it is in my business for forever. So knowing that this is the path that business owners are having to take, what can we do? What would it look like for them if we build that plan of succession, of retention, of, building that team and that culture within the business from wherever they are right now.
Right.
And so if you're a brand new business owner and you just started a team, you've got, 2 or 3 employees, great. Let's build around those employees. If you've got a team of 10, 15, but you still don't have benefits in place, great. Let's build around those employees so that you can keep them. But then we don't want you to lose them. So we want you to build, some benefits in there to where you keep those employees. We also want to look at key man insurance because there are those linchpins in your employees that are going to that you need to make sure that they stay, because if they go, the culture and the environment within that business is really going to suffer. So key point, or an example would be, a friend of mine. He actually talked with he talked with a pharmacy owner, and the guy owned several pharmacies around DFW. And so he asked the guy. He said, "Hey, you know, if out of all your employees, who, if they went down tomorrow, would be the one that you're like, oh my gosh, how do I replace this person? Is it one of the pharmacists? Is it, whatever?" And the guy said, "No, man, it's the IT guy, the guy that keeps all the computers and all the pharmacies running. Because if my computers go down, that means my inventory's jacked up. I have no way of taking payments and keeping track of everything that I got to keep track of." So,
So the IT guy.
yeah.
It makes
And,
sense.
and so, for that business, what would it look like if that IT guy got a life insurance policy that his family was taken care of with their death, with the death benefit from the policy? But if we actually put together a policy that built cash value and the business was able to cash flow through that policy, actually increasing the cash value of the policy and the liquidity of the business at the same time.
Now that's worthwhile.
So, there are things that can be done to retain employees, but then the legacy roadmap also comes in and starts to speak about, okay, so now that we've taken care of those two pieces and we've gotten your staff to a point where your business is making money, now how are you planning to protect your family and also make sure that plans and things are in place to pass the proceeds of this business on? And so that's where I actually have gotten into a partnership with a company called Trustee Friend that will actually build trusts and wills and virtual family offices and things for business owners that want to make sure that that their family is protected from the liability of their business, but also make sure that the profits and the different things that are set up within this whole environment are set up so that if something happens to that business owner, there are plans in place to keep the business in continuity, and the family has exactly what they need to thrive after the passing of that business owner, or to move them into retirement properly.
Okay. And how long have you been offering group plans or pursuing group plan clients?
I've been working with groups for about 4 years now.
Okay.
And, you
Okay.
know, I've had groups where there's over 100 employees. I've had groups all the way down to two. So it doesn't matter. It's just I just know that there are, especially for business owners, when they're wherever they are in business, they have to, what's it going to look like to actually get a plan like this integrated into the actual network of their business, the fibers of their business. And I kind of look at this like archery. 1 degree of deviation at the bow equals 400 feet at the target.
Right.
So let's get with business owners, let's get them aimed in the right direction and things put into place where they're ready to and they're aimed at that target that they're looking for right now. Now is the time to aim.
So I heard you touch on something that I had wanted to ask you about anyway. So maybe it just um uh uh maybe it's the same thing. I'm not sure. I don't know what it's called because life insurance, health insurance, that's not my thing. But I've heard of some kind of life insurance policy that's cash value. Like you can draw on it while you're alive, and it's like an investment. Does that
Yeah,
sound familiar? Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you expound on that? And do you offer that?
that policy is called the Index Universal Life.
That is
Um,
what it's called. You're right.
and man, those policies are some of the most powerful policies that are available right now. The
So let's
reason
talk about them.
the reason being is that there is safety in the policy first and foremost because it is on the it's built on a life insurance chassis. So you have your death benefit, you have your premium, you have the cost of insurance, all of that built into the policy. Now the cool part is that if you overfund the policy, which turns out to be your target premium, what happens within that policy is that you as the insured can actually direct where those funds are, what index the funds are mirrored towards. So if you want it to be the S&P 500, great. If you want it to be, whatever index that you like, depending on what company you go with, those funds can how your money growing in that policy is going to be credited just like that. Now, one of the
So,
cool parts.
okay, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what happens with these policies is that um, your money doesn't actually go into the stock market. It goes into a fund within the life insurance company that they credit your account based off of the performance of those indexes. So there's safety there. So one of the how it's explained, and this is a beautiful thing, is because it's not actually invested directly into the stock market. One of the cool things is that there's a floor. So if the S&P 500 loses 40%, you get zero, and in that case, it's a win. But if the S&P 500 goes up 15%, then if unless there's a cap actually stated in your policy, you would get the full 15% of growth. So you don't lose. Your cash value doesn't ever lose, but you will always gain when those indexes gain.
How does it gain if the money's not actually in there?
The insurance company credits your account based off of the gains and losses of those indexes. So the
So,
insurance company is profitable because they are insuring good risks to for their policies. Now, the insurance companies all make money off of investing in bonds. They do invest their money, but they are not directly investing their general fund into the stock market. And so, but they will credit the growth of the cash value of your life insurance policy based off of the gains and losses of those indexes.
So it's kind of like investing on paper, but not with real money, but you have real gains.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
And
It's like playing with house money.
I mean, but that's how that's how indexed annuities are as well. Not
So
variable.
I was looking into an index um, policy one time, universal index or whatever you call it. And I think I seen an ad on Facebook or something. And it was like a lead gen form, and I was filling it out. And it asked me how much a month, or uh, it asked me how much I was looking to make or something, or return or something. And then it asked me how much a month I was willing to put in. And I think I said something, it was like multiple choice or something. And I picked the one that was like less than $500 a month. Right. And it come back and say, yeah, that ain't enough. You don't qualify. Um,
Well, the thing is
I
that
was like, what?
with these policies, your first 7 to 10 years are used to really fund the policy, and so um, you do actually want to be cash flowing through these policies, depending on your situation. But you want to be hitting your target. You don't want to hit your. You want to be hitting target premium, not your base premium. And so when you're saying, "Hey, I've got less than $500 to put into one of these policies," what they're saying is that you're not in a place where you're going to be able to fund the policy enough for it to be a benefit to you.
What do you think is a good amount to put in each month?
It,
Or is that case specific?
it is very case specific. So when I actually do have these conversations about these policies, we do what is called an expert financial analysis, an EFA, and it really talks about, okay, so what's your situation? Not trying to be too intrusive or anything like that. It's just really we need to know
What we're dealing with?
what are we dealing with and how can we best fit the policy to fit your situation. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that life insurance is one of the most versatile financial tools available to us. And
And
so,
see, I never thought about it like that. Nobody ever taught me that. Nobody ever told me that. I'm thinking life insurance is something you buy for your kids or your wife once you pass on and they inherit it, or it takes care of your funeral expenses. And that's like the extent of it. I don't know anything more about it than that.
yeah, so life insurance is actually, like I said, one of the most versatile tools out there. Your term
Okay.
policies are there to make sure that if you have any outstanding debt, if you have things that are just, they're outstanding, you're like, okay, well, we've got a $300,000 mortgage on our house, or we've got, plus we've got car notes, we've got this, that, and the other thing. We don't want to leave any debt for the kids to have to deal with, so we'll take out a term policy to make sure that in the next 20 years, if something happens to me, all that debt can be taken care of. But if you're in a position to where you've kind of dealt with some of that, um, and it's not saying that you don't have debt, but if there's a way that we can actually deal with all that debt and then also make it so that you can actually take your money and grow it while still taking care of your obligations, what's that going to look like for you in the end? because at some point, and especially now where a lot of people are really having to be creative with and be very, very conscientious of where their dollars are going. Okay, a lot of these families do have they are in a position where they can actually put something like this together and make it so that not only are they taking care of their obligations, but they're growing for tomorrow as well. And so
And you can borrow from them too, right? You can pull cash from them.
there are certain instances where people are actually cash flowing through them. They are actually putting their bill money into their policy every month and then taking out a policy loan. And yes, you can borrow from them, but they're taking out a policy loan and using those monies to pay their bills. So, every month they make say $3,000 to $5,000. They actually put that $3,000 to $5,000 into their life insurance policy, and they pull out 80% of that to knock out whatever their obligations are. And every month their policy grows in value.
Are you
And
able to pull out of it every month?
mhm, it's your money. You do what you like with it.
Hmm.
So, but all of this comes with having an agent that knows exactly how to set these up, because one of the things that I'm finding is that either they don't get set up properly to where the cash value actually is maximized for people. There's too much death benefit. There's not enough benefit. There's a lot of different things that we have to look at. And so one of the things that I do for my clients is I actually will pull up a spreadsheet and show them, okay, if we choose to go with your target premium of X, then this is what your cash value is going to look like. And here, if we start to cash flow your funds through this policy, you can actually take out X every year and make sure that, hey, not only did we increase our account value for our policy, but we made sure that your obligations and everything, your lifestyle or whatever that you wanted to do is still taken care of. So I actually like to put it all out on paper so that people are able to see, okay, so with this policy, the plan is this year I'm gonna put X dollars in, next year I'm gonna put X dollars in, the year after I'm gonna put this amount of dollars in, and this is the way my account should perform. And
So
so,
let me ask you these two questions. Do
okay,
you pay capital gains on your money?
you should not, because when you pull out money based using a policy loan, it is a
It's a
loan.
loan. That's what rich people do.
It's a loan. I'm sorry, this is a loan. All my money is actually your money
Yeah.
is actually still in your insurance policy.
Okay. And the second question is, um, can creditors get it?
Now that is they shouldn't be able to get it, but it depends on how you actually have everything structured with the ownership of the policy. And this is where
So if you own it and they sue you, it's up for grabs. But if a trust owns it or another entity owns it, if you if you manage it but you don't own it per se, then it's a little more protected, like everything else.
Mhm. And one of your ideal situations is to have the trust own the life insurance as well as the trust as the beneficiary,
Hmm.
because if if
And do
in
you do
the
that too,
oh,
or
like I said,
or is that somebody else's field?
I have a partnership, and you can find a link to their services from my website.
Okay. And
www.special.guest.com.
I've got your website in the description for anybody watching or whatever.
Yeah, so you can actually go on. So my partner is a company called Trustee Friend, and
Hmm.
what they do is they actually have a network of attorneys and CPAs that are available in all 50 states to be able to set up trusts, virtual family offices, write out wills, all that kind of stuff at a very reasonable price. They have a self-service option, but they also have an option for people to work with a paralegal to make sure that all the everything that's contained within their trust document is structured properly. Or if you're not comfortable with a paralegal and want to speak to an attorney, there is an option to actually speak with an attorney and have the attorney actually work with you on all the rest of that. They do offer services to file everything for you if you would like. And one of the cool parts is that there is some accountability with utilizing a company like this, because one of the things that I find with people that are setting up trusts is that there are so many trusts that are actually the documents are written, they get filed, or the documents get written and presented to the client, but the client never files it, the client never funds it. And so the trust is literally sitting there and could be an amazing protective measure for this family or for that business or for,
And they
what,
never engage it.
and it's never actually put in enacted. So it's never enacted. And so that's one of the things that Trustee Friend really wants to make sure, and they work with their clients to make sure that um, the trusts are filed properly, and then the trust gets funded so that that protection is actually in working and ready for those families.
Now, do your partners and you as well? It's a two-part question, but do either of you work outside of the state of Texas?
I do, and they work in
Okay.
all 50 states. So
And what about you?
I
All
don't
50 states or?
states, but I am licensed in let's see, Colorado, Arizona, of course, Texas, Florida, Missouri. Um, Waiting on my license for Mississippi, and I have Michigan, Ohio. I mean, a bunch of different states. I'm
I'm
pretty.
surprised you're not in Oklahoma.
I am actually in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Like
I
I
was gonna
said,
say it's right on top of you.
I've got a
Just
myriad
a
of
hop and a skip.
actually from where I am. It's about a 20-minute drive to Oklahoma.
Right?
So, it's one of those things where I look at it and I see the need for all of these different avenues, all of these different things that business owners need. And so the whole goal of what it is that I'm working on accomplishing is helping these business owners actually ingrain the end game into wherever they are now. And so taking that plan and literally weaving it into the fabric of their business so that when it's time for them to move to that next stage of business, that the plan's already in, they already know what they need to do, you know?
And I think maybe a whole lot of the issue is just not knowing what to do. You know what I
Well,
mean? They would act if they knew what to act on.
and just like with me, when I first started my business, I'm like, okay, so I didn't know I needed to buy. Well, actually, I did know I needed to buy errors and omissions because I had a policy my company before. Actually, they provided my errors and omissions, and so it was one of those things where they bought it for me, but it wasn't something that I actually had to get for myself. And so, literally having to learn about, okay, what companies can I get error and omissions from? what companies do I need to, what companies are going to do right by my clients as I'm working in the realm of health insurance. What are my companies that are going to do right by my clients that are doing life insurance? What are the good dental companies? What are the good vision companies? What are the good supplemental policy companies? Because supplemental is a big deal, and it's right in between health insurance and life insurance. A lot of people don't think about it, but there or a lot of people think, oh well, I got Aflac or whatnot, but there are a lot of companies out there that provide better value than some of these other companies, and so you know figuring out what companies are providing the best value, the best bang for the buck benefits, and all the rest of it. There's a lot of different nuances that have to be addressed, and so in the last 6 years, that's what I've really gotten down into to address is like, okay, well, what companies do I like to work with? What companies do I not like to work with? How can we make sure that these companies that are up and coming, brand new business owners, um, I want to utilize my I want to utilize some of my strengths and some of the things that I've gone through to assist these other business owners in alleviating some of the pain points that I've had to walk through.
Do you do your are you finding that the structure and the rules for your industry change with each administration in Washington?
Yes, yes, and late in the last 8 years, the pendulum has swung both ways. The pendulum has swung both ways, and we've seen it. But the thing is that this industry moves slow and quickly at the same time. So what you'll see is a lot of very scaremongering, fear mongering, scare tactics in the media, but the actuality of the changes um, come very slowly. So the rapidity of, oh well, this is happening or that is happening or da, 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 and you're gonna because like one thing that happened with my mother, she said, well, they're gonna take my Medicare away. I said, Mom, they're not gonna take your Medicare away. They're not. It's not going anywhere. But there are changes coming, and in certain areas, yeah, the marketplace right now, um, there's a lot of changes coming, and we one of the more noticeable changes was when the Affordable Care Act actually went into effect. Everybody, when they first got on there, they were looking and they were like, "Oh man, these premiums are all right and the plans are okay," but then the actual the actual cost started to come in over the first couple of years, and the insurance companies, because what a lot of people don't realize is that insurance is state run, and so in every state the Department of Insurance is looking at these insurance companies saying, okay, you have 5 million people, or 2 or 3 million people on your books, or 5 million people on your books, or more in these bigger states. Do you have enough money to cover a catastrophic event where literally you are liable for 100% of all of these people's medical bills, and do you have enough money in the bank? And so, and they have to have that money in the bank at all times. And so, with that, it's one of those things where they do have to adjust costs. They do have to adjust what it is that people are paying for their services. Now, I'm not saying that everything is on the up and up within the book, within the back doors of these companies, but overall they are taking care of people. They are doing what they're supposed to do, and so like I said, this is an industry that headlines move fast, but the actual business itself moves slow. And so
That makes sense.
it's one of those things where people are like, okay, well, we're going to see a lot of changes. We're going to see a lot of this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, the changes come very slowly. But you do want to be aware of those changes because certain demographics sometimes those changes don't really work out well for them.
So let me ask you this. Let me shift gears a little bit. You've been in business 6 years and you've experienced quite a bit of growth. I'm sure you've experienced quite a bit of ups and downs and um, different extremes of your business. Have you dealt with a time where somebody, for lack uh, of a better way to say it, somebody has screwed you over?
Of course, every business deals with that.
What'd you learn from that? What'd you learn from that?
So
How'd you
one of the
respond to it?
one of the things that I learned from those situations is to be graceful because
That's
uh,
powerful.
rash decisions and retaliation made in anger will absolutely blow up in your face. So being graceful under pressure, understanding that sometimes those situations do happen, and learning from them in such a way that it actually there's a word called transmute, and all of the bad feelings, all of the different things that could be coming at you from those situations, you actually want to take them. You actually want to take them, and it's literally like putting everything in a big old bowl or a big old pot, and you either compress it, you add heat to it, you do what you need to do with all of that situation, and you start to cook it. And one thing that'll happen, and like just like when you're in the South, you add a little fat, you add a little flour, you add some heat, and you just let that thing do what it's supposed to do. And you stir it, you cook it, you keep sitting there stirring it, working it, and all of a sudden, this beautiful toasty aroma is going to come out of it. And so you want to actually take all of that, and like I said, the word is transmute, and transmute that literally by applying heat, pressure, dealing with the situation, not shying away from it, but dealing with it in such a way that you actually mold it into something that is going to catalyze your business into moving forward. That's what I learned from those situations.
I like that. Um, I like. I mean, all that makes sense, but it was real succinct when you just said, I've learned to be graceful." What come to my mind when you said that is I recently had a personal situation, not business, but a personal situation where somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do, and it it caused me to owe the IRS some money, and I was right and they were wrong, and I had a court order and I could prove it. And when I found out what they did, and I found out that I now had an IRS bill, right? And they wasn't supposed to do it, right? I got hot and I got ready for war. I was calling my lawyer, and oh man, and I just knew that if I took a rightful stand and went after what was mine, because it was mine. I was right. And it was going to cause so much disruption and chaos. And it was going to be like a bomb went off over in that other house. And the Lord just spoke to me. And he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And he said, "Let it go." He said, "I'll make sure you got the money to pay it." Right. Speaking of the IRS. And it just kind of stopped me. And I mean, I wasn't an audible voice coming like through the speaker of my car, or like somebody was sitting in the seat next to me. It wasn't audible, but man, it was powerful. And I heard it in my spirit. It said, "Blessed are the peacemakers. Let them have it. I will make sure you have the money to pay it." And I want you to know that I had an IRS bill and I had to pay it off in full by September 9th. And I paid it off September 8th. And it that just kind of came to my mind when you said that. There's going to be situations in business, in life, personal, whatever, that are just going to absolutely piss you off. And how you deal with that.
Absolutely.
Blessed are the peacemakers. You
Well,
have to make peace.
well, and
That's what a
here,
peacemaker is.
absolutely. I had a situation just last year where, you know, my one of my largest clients was just they weren't in a they internally they weren't in a good space, and a lot of that was leaking out towards me, and it wasn't anything that I had done. It was just that's where they were, and they started kind of like very passively aggressively making a situation. And I just remember I had fought to keep them for a year. I fought to keep them for another year. And then there was a piece about just letting it go. And as soon as I released them, I just was like, okay, you guys go. And, I released it. I remember it was actually November that I released, like literally it's in my spirit just release them. And mid-November, my phone absolutely blew up. And I actually had the busiest open enrollment that I had in years. And that open enrollment continued through about March of the next year. It didn't actually stop at the end of open enrollment. And I was like, man, I let that client go, and I was busier with group clients, with individuals, with life insurance than I had ever been in my life. And it was all because I chose to be gracious and just let them go.
Yeah. I used to make people sign contracts when I was doing marketing. And now I still do marketing on the side. I mean, it ain't my main gig, but I do it on the side. But now when I do it, there's no contract, just a handshake agreement. If you ain't happy, you can go. That key keeps me doing the best job I can. And if they want to go, we don't fight. We don't fight.
Yeah.
And I believe, because I hate keeping a client who's not happy, wants to go, and they're shackled, right? They resent me for continuing to take their money. I resent them for being difficult to deal with, and we just don't like each other. And yet we still have to deal with each other because we're handcuffed.
Yeah.
I don't do
Just
business like that.
There
I don't do
and
business like that.
what the thing is that what a lot of folks don't realize is that in business, if somebody's not your ideal client and they want to go, if you let them go, that makes room for the folks that you actually want to work with.
A- And that's true in relationships as well.
Because I realized, man, that that particular client had me so busy with all this extra ticky tack work that I didn't need to be doing, and it was costing me time and the ability to actually prospect and do the basic work that I need to do in my business. They were actually eating up all that time, so I couldn't actually do it. So by letting them go and actually being able to focus on what I needed to focus on, my business got busier.
And that's how it works. That's how it works. A lot of times the storm don't come to block our path as much as it does to create a new one.
Absolutely, or to just clear it, just
Clear it. Yeah,
move,
clear another path.
move this out the way. That's got to go. So it
Yeah.
really makes sense, man. And um, I'm so glad that I got to hang out with you a little bit today and talk and
Oh
see.
yeah, for sure, man. I've been missing you, buddy. Um, I might be seeing you on Facebook sometime, and I'd be, man, that's my buddy. Hey, let me ask you one more question. Right, we've
Okay,
been at this a little over an hour. I appreciate your time, but I just want to ask you one more question.
okay.
What's the greatest or the most impactful piece of advice you've ever got about business, life, relationships, otherwise?
Do it. Literally do it because people get caught up in perfectionism. They get caught up in wanting to make sure that whatever they're doing is perfect. That okay, they get caught up in self doubt, shame, whatever. But there is a grace to actually, and it's the scripture that says, "I'll bless what you put your hands to do." So you actually have to be doing it for that blessing to come. So whatever it is, do the thing. Do the thing. If you want to be a post hole digger, okay, grab a shovel. Do the thing. If
Yeah,
you're saying,
I would
hey,
agree with that.
if you're wanting to start a business of selling ice cream, okay, even if you're in Alaska, okay, go sell ice cream. Great.
Start.
Guess what? You got a free refrigerator in outside. So just
Yep,
do it.
start where you are and improve as you go.
Do it. Do it. You will make mistakes, and that's the cool part is that business is messy, and it's designed to be that way. But like I said, business is also a mirror, so that when you're saying, "Hey, I want to do this, and I want to get better at it, and I want to do all this, that, and the other thing," business is going to reflect back to you what it is that you're putting out there, and that gives you the opportunity to grow from it, to move into the next phase, and to keep keep pushing, so that until you find the success that you're looking for. But you know, if you're going to go on a journey, you'll never get where you want to go by sitting on the couch.
Absolutely.
So,
Hey, buddy, I appreciate that insight, man. I appreciate your time and being with you this evening. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. We're over an hour here,
all right,
but it'll be the replay will be available on YouTube. You better share it on your platforms and all that, man. I got all your links in the description. I
all
appreciate you, buddy.
right, absolutely. Well, thank you for your time and thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Bye.
sir.